Welcome back. You're now tuning into our Enterprise Watch segment, where we begin here. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, Sub-Regional Office for Southern Africa, SROSA, in partnership with the University of Eswatini's Department of Economics, UNDP Eswatini, and the Central Bank of Eswatini hosted a thought-provoking public lecture on Monday and officially launched the Economic Report on Africa, that is the ERA 2025. The lecture explored the implications and actionable pathways for the successful implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. To delve deeper into the lecture, we're now joined by the head of the Economics Department at the University of Eswatini, Daniel Dlamini. A very good afternoon to you, Nkosi, and thank you so much for coming through to our studios. Perhaps you could just begin here. Why this public lecture was so important? Why was it so essential for the University of Eswatini to actually host such a lecture?
Thank you very much, Notsile, and a very good afternoon to all the viewers at home. It was so important for the university to host the public lecture because its main objective was to try and facilitate and promote public engagement and awareness on the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. So we felt like as a university we should be on the forefront of driving any engagement that is going to inform policy on issues bordering around the implementation or the challenges of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Yeah.
As a country, we're already a member of several trade agreements, from SACU and EU SADC economic partnership agreements. Where does the AFCFTA fit in this entire landscape? What are the implications or the opportunities here?
Okay, one interesting thing is that, such challenges were envisaged, I think, right from the conception of the agreement. And as such, Article 19 of the agreement does provide for existing agreements, how to get around existing agreements. We very much know that for a country like Swaziland, we have the Southern African Customs area, which is one of the agreements that is bringing a lot of revenue for the country. And I could say it sustains the country. So what the African Continental Free Trade Area does is that for those agreements which are, giving greater benefits, that is existing agreements that are giving greater benefits to countries, the African Continental Trade Area is actually going to, sustain those or not interfere with such agreements. But for those that may be inconsistent with what the African Trade Area is trying to enforce, then those are the ones that, government will be persuaded to sort of align them with the objectives of the African Free Trade Area agreement. But maybe, if I were to put it in short, this doesn't mean agreements which are beneficial to the country are going to die. They are still going to be there, but ways are going to be found which ensure that these agreements are existing in tandem with the African Continental Free Trade Area.
The kingdom is a smaller player, small economy in a continental bloc. How can we now strategically position ourselves to avoid, being a less of a player in such a continental marketplace?
Yes, I think this public lecture has come at an opportune time for the country, in the sense that we have a lot of vulnerabilities which, if we do not take advantage of the opportunities that are brought by this agreement, we may find ourselves, on the receiving end. If I may elaborate on this, as a country, we all know that we are landlocked, which is one of the disadvantages that we have. But, getting into the African continental free trade area is going to expand markets for us. And there are a lot of things, because one of the things that the agreement is advocating for is the pooling of resources, which resources are going to ensure that countries are able to develop their infrastructure, countries are able to even import the necessary innovation which is going to simplify trade. And with the simplification of trade, we believe that it will then be enabled for our even our small businesses to sort of get the necessary technology that will enable them to develop products that could easily be exported to external markets. This is something that we cannot do in isolation, but through the pooling of resources, collaborating with other countries, taking full advantage of what the African Continental Free Trade Area brings, will enable the country to get the full benefit of what the agreement has to bring.
Pooling of resources, key resources, finances, and finances we get them via investors. So what's the kind of investment climate that as a country we should be building to attract regional investors, that look to tap into this regional market?
Actually, I think I will say as a country we're on the right track, because I can see that we are trying to expedite our efforts in as far as digitization is concerned, because that is where the world is right now. So if you develop your infrastructure, that will easily attract investment. So I would say one of the things that the country has to do is to ensure that it channels all its effort towards making the environment, the trading environment, as conducive as possible. We know that it's not only attracting investment, but it's also making possible for trade to flow. So we know that one of the impediments of trade is the issue of tariff and non-tariff barriers. I'm happy because in the public lecture, one of the things that was mentioned by the Ministry of Commerce when they were presenting the framework, they did indicate that some of these difficulties or challenges that we see in the in our borders will be a thing of the past. There will be a smooth flow of trucks, digitization, which will ensure that, goods are cleared from wherever they will be coming from, so that we won't have the long queues and the like. So those are the things that we need to do, because if you want to attract investors should be, should get that comfort that it will be easy to bring their raw materials, manufacture goods, and be easy to export goods to their destination. So those are, I think, the essential things. So ours is just to try and formulate policies that are going to ensure that such a conducive environment is created within the country.
Because our young economists, the students, were part of this public lecture, and with the youth in this very country being key or central to the development of the Kingdom of Eswatini, perhaps you could share the insights, from some of the presentations during the lecture that you think reflect on their hunger for participation or perspectives on continental trade and economic integration.
Yes, it is pleasing to say that not only did the students benefit from the presentations, but they were involved themselves because they also had presentations to make. And one of the presentations that they made was on trying to track the trends, the trade trends, and the barriers, the challenges. And it was such an insightful presentation that they presented, to the extent that our collaborators, that is UNECA, the UNDP, and the like, were very much impressed with our students. But then coming to your question, I think our students are future policymakers. So the presentations, as I indicated earlier on, were such that those supply side constraints that we have were sort of laid bare for everyone to see that, you know, we've got challenges that some of which we could only, we could easily work on. And there are also some gaps in terms of trade facilitation, also the issue of institutional fragmentation. All these were in the presentations, and students were made to understand that if trade is to succeed, all these things are impediments to trade, and these are things that we need to work on.
Right.
Yeah.
Before we part, Ngozi, I have to give you a bonus one. What does successful implementation of the AFCFTA look like in 10 years, in 5, in 10, 15, not only for the Southern African region, but for Eswatini? Yeah,
I would say that to me, I was quite impressed, because if we are speaking about 54, 55 countries having signed the agreement, about 48 have already ratified and deposited instruments, and Eswatini was amongst the first countries to do that. It shows great ambition on our part to see this agreement succeeding. So I will say, with the developments that are happening, even on the infrastructural development and the digitization, it to me, 10 years is a long period to start, reaping rewards for the effort that we are putting in making sure that we are simplifying all trade means in the country. So I will say, in 5 years' time, things will be different from what we are seeing now.
Right.
Yeah.
Very enough, Ngozi. Thank you so much for your time. This is the part where we wrap up our conversation. Daniel Dlamini, Head of Economics at UNESWA, unpacking the recently held public lecture and launch of the ERA 2025, and also deliberations on the effective implementation of the